لله صلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. Assalamu alaikum. How's everyone? Alhamdulillah. So we'll continue. We went over some interesting topics like last time. I don't know how new it was, how common how versed you are with it. So we went through Tahara and its mysteries. And then Imam Ghazali speaks about the 4 levels. The first one, which is the purity of the limbs. And the second one is the purity of the injustice of the limbs. So the purity of the limbs, you make wudu and then you purify yourself. The second one is you don't do anything wrong with your limbs yourself. The third one is the purity of the heart, very clear. And the fourth one is sirru, تطهير القلب من سر عما سوى الله. Anything except Allah. You only think about Allah. You have anything in your mind, any excitement or troubles or pains, all of that is removed because what is in your heart is only Allah. That's the greatest level of purification. And then we spoke about the different forms of akhbath. So you do tahara. You literally do three forms of tahara, or you have three different forms of tahara. Taharatul khabath. Taharatul khabath is to remove the actual impurity from the place or from your body, like we do when we go to the washroom. Taharatul ahdath is what happens. It's the tahara that we need when we do something, like when we sleep, when we have intercourse with our spouse, when you go to the washroom, then you need tahara. And the third one is taharatul fadalat. You have to remove that. Whenever you go to the washroom, those things that that we do in the washroom, those are not tahir, so we have to remove. That's tahara al-fadalat. So we spoke about that more or less. I've covered. I've summarized it very quickly, and then we've spoken about al-a'yan. Let me just try and find where that is. So we spoke about the ayan, which is the elements, the things what is the ruling of those elements, the elements which are inanimate. Anything which is inanimate by default is pure, is tahir. So rain, the wall, the trees, the floor, the soil, everything is tahir. And then he says, except from the inanimate object, except alcohol. Al-khamr, and this is in agreement with the Maliki. So you will hear me say a lot of supporting from the Maliki because I'm a Maliki, and I'm going to confirm what I know from the Maliki. And also the animals. So the things that are everything that by default is tahir. So all the animals, the human beings are tahir, except according to the Shafi'i and according to Imam Al-Ghazali, except the dog and the swine. So we had a lot of laughing last week because of that. It was fun. And we said that even the human being, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim, whatever, they are tahir. Whether they're alive or they're dead, they are tahir. And then there were some exceptions, of course, in the Shafi'i school. And then we started speaking about al-mazal. These are the terminologies, different terminologies used in different books. As al-mazal is the things that remove these things. How do we remove these najasat? We remove them with water. Water. Al-ma'u. Al-ma'u. So, الطاهر لنفسه المطهر لغيره. الطاهر by itself it's pure. ومطهر لغيره it is able to purify something else. If you add sugar here, it's still tahir, it's sweet. You drink it, it's sweet. You have coffee, it's tahir. You drink it, it's tahir, it's perfectly tahir, but it's not mutahhirun lighayrihi. So this liquid becomes, even if it looks like water, it's got sugar, like zahr, rose water. It looks like water, but it's not mutahhirun lighayrihi. So it cannot purify, so you cannot use it to purify. There's a lot of talk about the details of this, but I'm not going to get into the details. So if you have something which is najis here, you have to remove it with water, which is مطهر لغيره. It can only be removed. So the question is, well, can I not just remove it with soap, water and soap? That's not مطهر لغيره, but it did a perfect job, maybe better than water. I'm not getting into that. There's discussions about that, and it's clear. I mean, you understand. You wash your clothes, and they become pure. So water is al-muzil, is what removes these impurities. We're not talking about. We're talking about everything that it removes. So what type of water is it? The water that is from the sea. When the Prophet was asked ﷺ about the water of the sea, he said, "Huwa at-tahuru ma'u al-hillu maytatuhu." They asked him about the sea, which is salted. That's its original state. He said, "It is tahur. It is tahur. Huwa at-tahuru ma'uhu." And whatever dies from it, you don't have to sacrifice it. Every fish is halal to eat. Also, anything that is does not look like water, but it's fluid, like rivers that are under the trees, under the leaves. It changes color, it changes smell, it changes taste. It's still mutahhirun lighayrihi. Even though it does not look like what we know, the water that we know, it's still mutahhirun lighayrihi. And then Shafi'is have a special, when you start the book of Tahara, they speak about what water is tahir. So Shafi'is and a lot of other schools, they speak about a certain qullatayn, a certain measure, volume. Okay, if it is more than that, whatever you drop in it, it's still tahir. Whatever is less than that, whatever you drop in it, that it is not tahir, makes it najis. But it's very complicated. I remember reading this chapter when I started in the Kulliyat al-Hadith, and I was totally disheartened because I couldn't understand it. So, and then Shafi'i also goes into a lot of depth. What if there's a current of fluid which is najis inside of that tahir? So he says if it's a certain distance away from the current, it is tahir. Anyways, Imam Ghazali does not like that. So he said something very interesting and made me really happy. Listen to this. He says, وَكُنْتُ أَوَدُّ أَنْ يَكُونَ مَذْهَبُهُ كَمَذْهَبِ مَالِكٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. I wish that Imam al-Shafi'i was like Malik in this case. I'm not putting down anybody. A'udhu billah. These are great scholars, great sense. But Imam al-Ghazali says, this is a little too complicated for the normal person. I wish that he made it simple for the rest of us. في أن الماء وإن قل لا ينجس إلا بالتغير. So he gives us a clear, a simple rule which the Malikis use. The simple rule that the Malikis use is if water does not change three of its elements or its characteristics, like smell, taste, and smell, taste, and color. Yes, exactly. Then it remains tahir. Okay. So that's what he's saying here. Radiyallahu anhum jami'an. And then he goes back again to the same argument we had in the beginning, where he says we have to make this topic very easy and very accessible. Okay, let's not be. And this is the problem, he says, with people that do not have fiqh. They become obsessed. And he says it is the fuqaha, the true faqih, that does not get obsessed. So al-wiswas is something very dangerous, and he says this is what we are trying to fight. Very dangerous. And subhanAllah, the shaitan comes into this door in the beginning of your deen, tahara, before you start praying, and he makes it hell for you. Some people become really, really obsessed by all of this. And he tells us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so in supporting this, he tells us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he never, like, he would have water, and he would never cover the vessel from the cats that are in the house, whereas the cats do eat mice and rats, so it doesn't matter. So we don't overthink this. You have to keep it very simple and very accessible. And he also mentioned Umar radiallahu anhu last time when he was given water from the Christian lady. and then he just used the water which was heated by her, and he didn't ask any questions whether it had any sort of najasa or sorts. And so on, and he just keeps proving that water is pure in its essence and its origin. So how do we remove? We said al-mazal, those are the things that remove it, and how do we remove it now? So we have I don't know if this is too technical or too boring, but we're talking about how to remove tahara from the clothes. Okay? So النجاسة إن كانت حكمية وهي التي ليس لها جرم محسوس. So we don't know whether if you see this clothing and you don't know whether it's got najasa, what do? You just throw water on it, sprinkle it, or wash it. End of story. Don't bother with it. And that's what Ibn Umar used to do when he doubted whether he dripped urine on himself. He would just sprinkle water. It's right here. Sprinkle it. Relax. I don't know where it is. Just sprinkle it and relax. But then, if it is clear, let's say you have, excuse the graphics, if someone has an underwear, and not everyone has the luxury to wash their clothes every week or every 2 days. In some parts of the world, you have one underwear, so you have to wash it, and it becomes dirty. Okay, so what do you do when that underwear becomes stained with yellow or brown? Okay, so he's saying as long as you use, as you do what the hadith prescribes, which is here, al-hatt wal-qas, doing this and wash it with water, then you're okay. As long as the smell is no longer there and the taste is no longer there. You're not going to taste it, and you're not going to try and smell it. But if the color is there, it's okay. Okay, so this is one nature that you cannot really. So the ruling of tahara is on that. It looks like it's not tahir, but the ruling is tahir. Okay, and so this is al-hukmu al-ma'nawi. So you can't really go into let's taste it or let's smell it, or it looks, but I did this. I threw it in the washer dryer, and that's it. End of story. Okay, والقسم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا، تفضل. Again, he keeps making this point. والمزيل للوسواس, and to remove this obsession, أن يعلم أن الأشياء خلقت طاهرة بيقين, that everything was born by default, by origin. It was born, it was created طاهر. Rafi is here. Alaikum assalam. MashaAllah, Rafi. Very nice to see you. And then we move on to the next topic, which is how do we go into the washroom and do our thing. Okay? Are we going to explain that? Get into the details? Yes? There was a story from a Jew speaking to a companion. He says, "Your prophet taught you even how to go to the washroom," and he used the word al-khara'a, "allabakum hatta al-khara'a," that the prophet, your prophet taught you even this. So it's interesting that our deen teaches us everything, absolutely everything, from A to Z, from the most to the greatest. So the first thing that we have to remember is that we should do it in privacy, obviously. We don't want to show ourselves doing these things. We have to remove ourselves from the eyes of others and to cover ourselves. Some people go to the washroom and urinate standing up. I said before that we'll get to that in a minute. But, that person is covering himself. Technically, that person is covered. So, but it's better. It's just more... What's that? Muru'ah, more chivalresque, to cover yourself, to go inside in the cubicle. And some scholars have said to be chivalresque is even to when you go out from your cubicle, you don't come out doing this, getting your buckling your belt, and you're doing your zipper and all that stuff. it's not very so. And then you don't face the qibla, or you don't put the qibla behind you, wherever you have the control. So if you're outside, in the desert or in the forest, you have that choice. So don't face the qibla if you know where it is, and don't have the qibla behind you. If you're in your house, and a lot of these buildings were built in a way that you are facing the qibla, what do you do? Yeah. So there's differences of opinions, a lot of opinions, but the bottom line is you are, as long as it's in a built place, and you have no choice and no control, you can do that. But it's nice, it's a recommendation to do a little bit of a tilt, with that intention that you're just moving a little bit to this direction. And that's just by intention, you relieve your heart from that responsibility. Also in some books of fiqh, they say once you're done, you say Allahumma ighfirli, and that's okay. So that's one of them. ولا يستدبرها والعدول أيضا عندها في البناء أحب. Anywhere you are, you should try and find a place where you can cover yourself. They're talking about the Bedouins or the travelers, the Arab travelers. If you have your animal, you do it behind the animal. That should be sufficient. And you don't urinate in water that is stagnant, that is not moving. That's makruh. One should not do that. And when you enter the washroom, obviously you enter with the left, you leave with the right, and that one should not urinate standing. Preferably, one should not urinate standing. Aisha, there's two opinions. Aisha radiallahu anha is very firm. There are hadith that are very firm about that the Prophet ﷺ said, the Prophet never prayed standing. Whoever told you is not don't believe whoever tells you that. Even Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu said that the Prophet saw him pray, urinate standing up, and he told him not to, so he never urinated standing up after that. So it's better to be avoided. But we're also told that the Prophet ﷺ did pray. What am I saying that? Praying. Urinate standing up. Rasulullah ﷺ was observed doing that. So how do you combine with these two things? How you combine with these two things? If you have a certain situation, then you should choose what is easiest. For instance, if you are afraid to sit down, if you cannot crouch, if you cannot do this or that, then you do it standing up. But you have to take your cautions. You have to be precautious by doing it in a place that does not have a surface that is hard, so it doesn't splash against you. What happens if you have mushaf, or if you have something that has Quran in it? Do you go into that into the washrooms?
Is it sufficient if you just cover it up or put it in a bag or something?
I want to hear the others. What?
Like if you cover it up.
MashaAllah, very good, excellent.
Is it printed or is it
written by hand?
Digital. Then yeah, as long as it's on.
Oh, he means is it
clear?
Yeah.
Because I've heard there's different. But if it's on paper, then yeah, you cover it up.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. Mashallah, you all have the answers, and a lot of people get confused about it. They say, I have mushaf in my bag. What do I do? Do I leave it outside? If you can't leave it outside, you have to take it in with you. Just make sure you cover it and you take it inside with you.
Does this apply with like people, for example, wearing jewelry with the name of Allah on it?
If you have that, if women are wearing jewelry, they should put it in the pocket and go in. You should not leave it outside like that. And then we have Salman al-Farisi radiallahu anhu, he did say that himself about us. He says, علمنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كل شيء حتى الخراءة فأمرنا ألا نستنجي بعظم ولا روث ونهانا أن نستقبل القبلة بغائط أو برين. So in this hadith he summarized mostly what we've said, and he said that Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم taught us everything, even going to the washroom Al-khara'a, which is a very graphic word. And another, it's interesting that that Al-Ghazali brings up this point. If you're in a washroom and the cubicles are neighboring each other, right? Is that okay, permissible to have someone just beside you doing the same thing and you can hear them and you know who he is, who she is? Yes? No? Why is it so hard to answer that? It's nothing wrong with that, absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, the Prophet did it ﷺ, to show us that it's permissible. So, and on top, and especially from the fact that Rasulullah ﷺ was very shy. He was shyer than a virgin woman who never left her house. So she's very shy. He was more shy than that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yet he made sure to go to the washroom. Like there is, al-gha'it means a soil that is deep, and there's a hole in the soil, or there's like a whatever, you know what I'm saying. So someone is there, and this person is here. So they both are doing their thing, and they don't see each other. Okay, so he did that. He did that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to make sure that we understand that it's okay to do that. I remember going to the mosque one time, and there was a sheikh that you probably all know. It was Habib Omar. Habib Omar, hafidahullah, and his students were with him, and they refused to go in with him. They all stayed outside. They allowed him to go in and be at ease. So he went in. When he was done, they all went in. So that's also it's a beautiful way to respect someone that you have respect for. And then we talking about kayfiyatul istinja. How do we remove the like the urine or the feces from whenever you go to the washroom? We've spoken about that last time. Yes.
The first one. So are we allowed to ask questions?
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned in the stall next to you, you can hear who he or she is. Now we have a lot of both gender washrooms.
Oh, really?
Yes, in the school. So does that mean that those are okay?
Yeah, I guess. So we've spoken about this, not in details. We spoke about how we remove urine. You stay a little bit, so that's called al-istibra', making sure that all the urine has left. And even that, the scholars have said, don't be obsessive about it. Don't overthink it. Okay, just stay. You finish urinating, you let the urine go out, and then you start cleaning with your Kleenex, okay? Or you start cleaning with water. And then we are told that to use the two of them is mustahab. But you start with what? The water or the Kleenex? Either is a good answer, but
Water makes more sense.
But if you remove it with water, why do you use the Kleenex after that? Because Kleenex is istijmar. So there's no istijmar anymore. You understand what I'm saying? So to do istijmar, you have to start with the Kleenex, and then you do the water. In case there's something that went beyond the places that, yes.
So just responsive to that, there is like two way of making tahara, which is using the water and using al-hajar. It's called al-hajar, which is anything that's
L'istijmar.
solid. Yes. So is either you use one of them, or the best way is to use both of them.
That's exactly it. You've just summarized it, mashallah. Here Al-Ghazali goes at length to give us dua before going to the washroom, before coming out to the washroom, and you will see in a minute how there's a lot of dua, and I think it's almost impossible for us to memorize them all. Imagine a new Muslim or someone who just started to practice, someone who has a bad memory like me. It's impossible. So, but it's beautiful if one can have all these. So that means you're always in a state of making dhikr. Go into the washroom, you say beautiful things. Start doing the wudhu and so on. You leave the washroom, you say certain things. And how do we make wudhu? And this is the next little chapter about tahara. And he starts with السواك إذا فرغ من الاستنجاء اشتغل بالوضوء فلم يرى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قط خارج من الغائط إلا توضأ. So Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, whenever he went to the washroom, he did wudu. He never went into the washroom except that he was seen making wudu and starting with a siwak, which means that Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم was always in a state of tahara. And the state of tahara, maybe we've mentioned last time, that it's ibadatun mustaqilla. It is an independent form of ibadah. You could be sitting with your wudu on, and you're just daydreaming. You're not fasting, you're not reading Quran, you're making dhikr, you're not praying, but you are in ibadah because you have tahara. So ibadatun mustaqilla is a very powerful state to be, and even if you're not doing dhikr. Imam Ibrahim ibn Adham, you know him? Ibrahim ibn Adham, who passed away in 110, I think in Syria. The last days, he was pretty old, about 7 years old or so, and he was coming back from, we'll call it a military excursion to avoid some words. So he came with, with his ruler, and then he got sick. And that night he went to the washroom 25 times, and every time he went to the washroom he did wudu, and at the end of the 25th time he passed away. But this is because he was always in the thing that you are going to do in your life. Always, that's how you're gonna die. So he was always doing tahara in the state of wudu, until radiallahu anhu, he passed away in the state of wudu, even though it was very difficult to keep up with the wudu because that was part of him. But he started, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he started to do. So he says, this hadith says, وَيَبْتَدِئُ بِالسِّوَاكِ. So he starts with brushing the teeth. When you go into the washroom, you start, before you do your wudu, you start with, and the Prophet ﷺ said, لَوْلَا أَشُقَّ عَنْ أُمَّتِي لَأَمَرْتُكُمْ بِالسِّوَاءِ عِنْدَ كُلِّ صَلَاةٍ وَفِي رِوَايَةٍ عِنْدَ كُلِّ وُضُوءٍ. He said, ﷺ, if he didn't fear to make it difficult on my ummah, I would have not recommended but ordered them to do siwak before each salah, and another riwayat before each wudu. And that's why a lot of people who go and if you see them after iqamah, they're standing up and they're doing this, right? Did you notice that? No? MashaAllah, that's funny. Maybe you didn't live in certain places. So they would stand up in what?
But usually, for that one, there is the adab of the siwak, so like not to do it in public or not to do it in the mosque.
Yeah, in the Malikis, yes, but not in the other schools. Like in the Hanbali, if you are in the masjid, the iqamah is called, you pull your siwak and start. And I was in the university, and some of the African students there, Malikis, they got really disgusted. A'udhu billah, astaghfirullah. Because it's makruh for the Malikis to take the siwak in the masjid. It's called qadara. Either it's tahir, your saliva is tahir, but it's qadr. It is disgusting. So anything that drops on the floor, it is bad adab to the mosque, to the house of Allah. So anyway, so he said, لولا أن أشق عن أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك عند كل وضوء. I would have ordered them to do siwak each time they made wudu. So he says, there are many ahadith that speak about that, and that the place of siwak is أفضل من 75 صلاة بغير siwak. That's I don't know if this hadith is sahih, but it's beautiful hadith. It tells you how important. It's a hadith which is da'if. However, hadith says that to pray with your teeth and your mouth clean is better than 75 prayers without your mouth being taken care of. I remember a teacher, I forget his name. I remember the title of his book, and he spoke about the virtues of, in the middle of the class he starts speaking about the siwak and the virtues of the siwak and how powerful it is for your mouth and how it keeps your teeth white. And his teeth were very white. He was dark. He was very dark, but his teeth, subhanallah, mashallah, was brighter than milk. And he says, even so, if you're regularly doing siwak, even if you don't do it for a few days, your mouth remains clean. For some reason, it gives your mouth that sustainability. Anyways, so it is a beautiful thing to do, and there's no doubt the Prophet ﷺ, if he did it, the Prophet ﷺ, it means that there's a lot of virtue, a lot of healthy benefits. And he just mentioned here, لولا أن أشق عن أمتي. And he also tells us here that one of the companions said that the Prophet ﷺ, he would wake up several times at night and clean his teeth. So, someone goes to the washroom, you do whatever you do, clean your teeth. It doesn't have to be with or buy the super soft brushes, and keep doing that just as a sunnah, and also to keep your mouth fresh. And he says, "Alaykum bis-siwak fa innahu matharatun lil-fami." And then Al-Ghazali himself tells us how we should be always cleaning our teeth, our mouth, whenever we eat something, or whenever we go into the masjid, or whatever we want to. There's an important state that you want to be in. You clean your teeth. So it says, يستحب السواك عند كل صلاة وعند كل وضوء, and after a long time, or at night, and so on and so on. And then he shows us how to do wudu. So he starts with al-siwak. You start with a siwak. I know that in the Maliki we start with your hands before the siwak. So you wash your hands 3 times, then you do your teeth. Then you do, what's it called? In Arabic? Madmada. So you do siwak, and you do al-madmada 3 times. And madmada is not gargling. That's not, madmada is just taking water in and water out. That's all. Simple as that. So you do a siwak with your toothbrush. You fill your mouth, you wash it. You start with the right, and you finish on the left. Start with the top, then the bottom, then do the roof of your mouth, and then the bottom. And we are told that the Prophet ﷺ would gag. That's how clean he would wash his mouth, and that's the siwak. Or you can do it very lightly, just on your teeth. So it doesn't matter. You could do it deeply or just lightly. And then you do the madmada. So the siwak is mustahab, the madmada is a sunnah. The siwak, if you don't do it, it doesn't affect much your wudu, but washing your mouth is a sunnah which you should not leave behind. And then you wash your mouth 3 times. So it says here. ثم, so he says the opposite. You do the siwak, okay, and so he starts with. You start with Bismillah. Okay, you start with Bismillah when you start your wudu. After you finish your siwak, you say Bismillah. In the Maliki, you start Bismillah before you wash your hands. It's not a big difference, not a big deal. Do you say Bismillah before starting wudu? Yeah, it's either Bismillah or Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Anything beyond that is beautiful, but it's not from the Sunnah. So if you read the books of fiqh, but if you read the books of tasawwuf and akhlaq and adab and so on, they give you additional things to say. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of beautiful hadith and dua that Al-Ghazali gives to us. So you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim or Bismillah. And then you start washing your hands 3 times. ثم يغسل يديه 3 اللهم, and then he does a big long dua here. And then what do we do after our hands? The face, the nose. I scared you a little bit. What's he saying? So the nose after that. The nose is sunnah. Okay, you do the nose 3 times. You do istinshaq wa istinthar. And if you go into details, you do istinshaq with your right hand, wa istinthar with your left hand, like so. Okay, you do that 3 times. Again, he gives us. Not a beautiful dua, is really very interesting. والاستنصار you say اللهم إني أعوذ بك من روائح النار ومن سوء الداء and so on. And after الاستنصار you do the face. The face. How many times? 3 times. From where to where? From where?
From the edges of your
Where the bottom? Where does it reach to the bottom?
Like the edge.
Sorry,
To the jawline.
I don't have my glasses on. You're lucky.
Like under your chin.
Under where? Where under your chin?
Is
Here.
I disagree.
Sorry.
it stop at the jawline?
The jaw, two here, jaw. They win. This is it. The jaw. So anything underneath is not wudu. The face is here. The jaw, the line jaw, okay. And your face from left to right, where?
Before your ears.
Where are the ears?
Before the ears.
Yeah.
Right here? Okay, and from the top?
Hairline.
Hairline. From the hairline. And what if you have no hair?
From your temple.
It's sky's the limit.
No. So yeah, so whatever you estimate. I wish my face ended here. And then you wash from there. Okay, so you wash your face 3 times, and it is mustahab to start from the top. Okay, it's mustahab to start from, because I always say it faces Allah first when you do your sujood, so it's closest. So you give honor to that, and then you make sure the place is between your nose and your. What about if a man has a light beard like mine? How do you do that? Takhleel. You do, if a man has a light beard, you do takhleel. You do this. If you have beard like mine, if you have a thick beard, then you don't have to do takhleel. Takhleel becomes mustahab. Okay, you just do this, and then, and if you look closely, if you take a course with some mashayikh from the schools and they have a big beard, they have a very intricate way of showing, like how you do this and then do this. And do it. This is all like taught from their teachers, right? But keep it simple, of course. And then we have, so we finished the face, and the next thing is what? The arms till where? To the elbows. Okay, but here he says something very interesting. I'm trying to find it here. What? He says حشي ويقول في الاستشاق وجهه الأذن ويطيل الغرة ويرفع الماء إلى أعلى العضد فإنهم يحشرون يوم القيامة غرا محجلين من آثار الوضوء. So this wudu is a sign of the believer on the day of judgment, that the Prophet ﷺ will recognize his believers, his followers, because of the signs of the wudu. You know, and right now, even though it doesn't, we walk like this, like everybody else, a Muslim or non-Muslim, someone does wudu or doesn't, we have the signs.
Is it like that forelocks will be seen or something? I've heard of this hadith, and then I've heard like forelocks.
What's forelocks?
It's right here on your head, and like you'll have like some.
It's like a light.
Yeah.
Your face, with every part that has that is affected by wudu,
Okay.
will have a sign, will have a light, or will have an effect that the Prophet ﷺ will recognize. And he said that because of that, we should go beyond the places of wudu, all right, beyond the elbow. That's why he says وَيُطِيلُ الْغُرَّةِ. And there's a hadith which is very clear that says مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ أَنْ يُطِيلَ غُرَّتَهُ فَلْيَفْعَلْ. If someone is able to, the ghurra is, now we're talking about this shining thing of wudu. If you are able to extend it beyond the minimum, then you should do it. Like the feet as well. If you go as high as the middle of the ankles or to the knees, whatever, and then you should do it. Okay? So this is in the Shafi'i. In the Maliki, it's makruh to go beyond the elbow, and it's makruh to go beyond the bones of the ankles. So this is how the fuqaha understand. It's the same hadith, the same words from the Prophet ﷺ is understood differently by the companions. And the Prophet ﷺ approved the understanding of all the companions. So one understands it this way and the other one understands it the other way, and they are perfectly acceptable. So that's why we have differences. That's one of the main reasons that we have differences of opinions in these things. So we do our elbows and then we wipe our heads, right? How many times do we wipe our heads? Who said 3?
No.
Who said 1? I'm going to take a picture. Click. Who said 1? Who about here? Huh? 1. No, wiping the hair. I'm talking about the hair. Who says 3 times for the hair? Who says 3 times for the hair? Let's see what Ghazali says.
A chimney.
I don't find it here, but I know one thing. That Al-Shafi'i says 3 times. At least Al-Ghazali says 3 times. And he does his ears 3 times. So if you see someone in the washroom do their hair 3 times and their ears 3 times, don't say that this person is ignorant. There's differences of opinion. I know most of the Jamhur, they do it once. So in the Maliki, we do it once this way and once this way. In fact, here Al-Ghazali says to hold, and again, I'm going to tell you that when the fuqaha teach us about wudu, they are very, very intricate. They hold your hand like this, and you go up. It doesn't mean that you have to do it that way, but this is how they're showing us. When you start washing your feet, for instance, you start with the what's it called? What's the pinky in the toes? You start with the small toe on your shoe on your foot on the right, and you end with the left one on the small finger on the left one. But some of the interpreters, commentators of Al-Ghazali have said there's no hadith about that. So why are you getting so picky? But the fuqaha have gone into details again. So I'm just telling you, the fuqaha have gone doing this, doing like that. And when you wash your hand, you start with the top, the back, and then you let the water go down and do this, and you go like that, and then you do takhleel, and then you go even the finger, what do you call that? Fingernails, and then you go to the left one, like this, and then you do the takhleel, and so on. But the commentator has this something interesting. He says there's no hadith, but this brings something to our attention. Is that the Prophet ﷺ, everything he did was calculated. So he must have thought, he must have done it in a certain way every time, for some reason or another. So it's very interesting to follow the fuqaha, the scholars, and to try and do it their way. But don't let it get to you. It's not a big deal. There's no hadith. Don't get too hung up on it. What's the other thing about wudu that? الأذن في العارض يدخل أحد الوجه الإحياء يصل الماء إلى منابت اللحية 3 الغر. We did that. And then again in the Shafi'is, do we wipe the neck? No. You're Shafi'i, right? You don't do this, right? At the end. Who's Shafi'i here? You wipe your neck? No. Hanaf here? Hanaf? You wipe your neck? Yeah. Al-Ghazali wipes his neck. Interesting. So Al-Ghazali is Shafi'i, but he's independent. He's mujtahid, and he finds this practice something which is appropriate in his school. And he even quotes a hadith. It's not sahih, but it doesn't matter. We won't get about the usul of using a hadith which is da'if and so on. And so on, and all this dua. And what do we say when we finish doing the wudu?
واجعلني من عبادك الصالحين.
You're like Ghazali.
Exactly.
That's long, man. That's long. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah ashhadu Muhammad Rasulullah. It's fine. Okay, in our in the Maliki anyway, and in the Tirmidhi, you add أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله محمد اللهم اجعلني من التوابين واجعلني من الطاهرين اللهم اجعلني من التوابين واجعلني من المتطهرين. And here himself, I'm trying to find it, he has a long one. It's like Sidi Ahmed, اللهم اجعلني من التوابين واجعلني من الطاهرين واجعلني من عبادك الصالحين واجعلني من الصابرين الشكورين. It's a long hadith, a beautiful hadith. But again, if you stick to the sunnah, it's good, it's perfect. If you want to make dua, the more dua you make, the better. Especially after each qurba. After each qurba. If you read Al-Fatiha one time, it's a qurba, you make dua. If you read Yasin one time, it's a qurba, you make dua. You make 2 rakats, you go visit the Prophet ﷺ, it's a qurba. The greatest qurba, you make dua, it's accepted. Wudhu, the same thing. One of the greatest makruhat, the things that are not desirable, that are hated, is to use too much water. Okay, and there's a lot of hadith. You know the hadith where the Prophet tells us to be economical, even if you're making wudu beside the river. So that's so very, very careful with. So now makruhat yakrahu fil wudu umur minha, to do more than 3. You wash your hands 3 times. You do more, it's makruh. You do less, is it makruh? No. What is acceptable? Is it acceptable? Yeah. Once is the wajib, and the second and third is the sunnah. In general, this is there are like very interesting opinions in the Maliki, opinions like different aqwal. I won't get into that. But so the first one is wajib. The second one, you have a lot of blessings, a lot of virtue. And the third one even more. So, and Imam Kamal, what's his name? Kamli? Sa'id al-Kamli? Yeah. Sa'id al-Kamli, once he spoke about this and he said, only a student of knowledge or a scholar should do it once. It means don't get used to watering down your wudu. Make sure you do it 3 times. But this is part of the the easiness again. The easiness of doing wudu. If you just do once, and once it's perfect, once here it's perfect, so no worries. And he says, Ibrahim ibn Adham himself says, يقال إن أول ما يبتدئ الوسواس من قبل الطهور. That's what I've told you earlier in the beginning, that these obsessions from shaitan come from the first of these obsessions start in wudu. And there is a shaitan which called al-walhan. He starts laughing at us because, and I've dealt with people, I've had people come to me and talk to me about this. I've traveled with someone in Hajj, and he had many years, like 2-3 years, and finally one day he woke up and it was gone. But he said it was hell. As long as it lasted, it was hell. Another young person, his father told me, please speak to my son. He still has the problems. So it's really, we really have. So what happens if you do wudu, or if you do salah, okay, and you are in your first rak'ah, and you think that you did 4, what do you do? Okay, that's bina'un ala al-yaqeen. You're sure of 1, right? You're sure of? No, you said 4. I'm saying 1, no 4. What's happening? So if you're not obsessed, you build on what you are sure about. If you are obsessed, you build on what you doubt. So I did 4. Even if I prayed 1, I should stop and feel perfectly safe. Understand? I did also wudu. The person does wudu. He does 3 times, and then he says, wait a second, did I do my hands? His hands are wet. End of story. So this is how you kill waswasa. I have problems myself. Like when I go into salah, sometimes this starts. So what do? I go into salah and I pray Maghrib, and I go into my last rak'ah. Did I do my last rak'ah? So I stand up and I do an extra one, right? If that happens again, the next day I don't do it. Like I kill it right away. You cannot allow shaitan to stop playing with you. So as soon as he starts playing with you, you kill it. I'm done. I think I did my 3 rakat and end of story. And then he speaks about, should we continue or stop and have questions?
We have still like 23 minutes. So
Yeah.
we still have like 10, 15.
Yeah, but maybe it's too much.
Up to you.
It's up to you guys.
Some questions, yeah.
Yeah? We can have questions, inshallah.
And you'll be the first question.
I can ask some questions.
The next